All right, welcome everybody to LiveFULLy. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Isagenix Vitamins, and also we're going to just be talking about some general information about vitamins for that's related to obesity and also related to some types of bariatric surgery where the duodenum is actually bypassed, and that is an organ that absorbs calories and nutrients. And so there are certain deficiencies that are really common for people that have had gastric bypass, that have had, any surgery that actually does bypass that organ. And so, surgery is becoming so mainstream almost. I mean, so common. Whereas even, 5-10 years ago, it's still, it would be normal for somebody to not know someone that had, some type of bariatric surgery. Like that would be normal. Today, I feel like almost everybody knows somebody that has had surgery. And so the number of, multiple people, me too. And, I'm coaching multiple people that don't, they're not even on my team. It's just, people find out that you've had gastric bypass, and it's like, there's so many people that are out there that are either experiencing, certain things for themselves as far as, gaining weight after the surgery is super common. And so they're looking for a solution nutrition-wise that will help them lose the weight that they're regaining after surgery, or they didn't lose as much as they thought they were going to. And so they're looking for a nutrition system that will help them lose the rest of the weight. But one of the things that I've always been really careful about when I coach people, just from having gone through it myself, is that there are a lot of vitamin deficiencies that are common. And so as I would be coaching people, one of the most common questions from them would be, well, what do you do as far as vitamins are concerned? Do you use Isagenix vitamins, or do you use bariatric vitamins? Because typically, if someone has had bariatric surgery, the doctor, the surgeon will prescribe a bariatric vitamin because they're loaded with, and we'll take a look. I made a slide of the more common vitamin deficiencies that typically bariatric vitamins, they boost those because they know that if you've had surgery, those are ones that your body is not going to be able to absorb, whether it's because you can't get enough of the food that has those vitamins. Like if you just have a new pouch that's created from surgery, you obviously can't eat a big steak that has a bunch of, whatever the vitamins and nutrients are in a steak. So like your body is naturally not going to get enough from food. The other thing is when the duodenum is bypassed, that absorption, even if you were putting that amount of vitamins in, it doesn't get absorbed into your system the way that it does for a normal person. So, so we'll talk about some of those common deficiencies so that if you're coaching someone or, that has gone through surgery or is considering it, I want you to be able to ask the right questions and make sure that that's taken care of, because you guys, there are some really serious medical, what do I want to say, conditions that can come about when you're deficient in certain vitamins. And a lot of times you don't even know it until it's too late. And I'll give you some examples of some of the things that I went through that I didn't even realize it until it was happening to me, that I was like, what the heck is going on? And it's because I hadn't had blood work done in a while, and certain of these vitamins just were like in dangerous levels. So it's something that you really want to make sure that if somebody's starting Isagenix, ask them about their vitamins, and I'm going to give you some key questions to ask them. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is just go over some of the general information. I'm going to share my screen about the vitamins. There it is. Okay. All right. Hey, David, I'm going to mute you real quick. Let me move this over right here. Okay. So is that a yes? You can see the screen of the, okay. So this is an image that you may have seen in the groups, like in the Health in Action group, or, you know, you might have seen like different Facebook posts that shows everything that's in the vitamins. And I've seen it before, but I've never really, like really looked at it. I need to move my little things over here. So, and it's important too that this image is reflective of the Ageless Essentials. I don't know where this was. I gotta put my glasses on. With product B. So some of the information that I pulled when we get to the table of all the different vitamins, I actually use the Ageless Essentials for Women as my comparison point, and I made a note of that. But so this is, you know, this is actually, this picture is of the Ageless Essentials with product B, or Isagenix. Sorry. So one of the things I wanted to point out, I mean, just look at all of the, you know, 22, the magnesium that's in 22 mangoes. You know, vitamin B1, 33 ounces of pistachios, vitamin B3, a cup of peanut butter. So for people, especially, you know, we were talking about bariatric patients that are not getting these nutrients through food. You know, knowing what is actually the nutrition that's in the vitamins. And I used to always think that that was so different. Like there's, you know, there's nutrition with food, and obviously like with Isagenix, which is still food. And then there's like vitamins that give you something different. And, you know, Jason brought up a good point earlier that there really is some overlap. Obviously, like when you look at this, it's like, oh, wow, a lot of the same things that, you know, all of these vitamins, these foods that are equivalents, right? So of what comes in the vitamins, it's important to know that, like, well, if you're already taking in, if you're already eating 22 mangoes a day, you know, you've gotten in the same amount of magnesium that is in the vitamins. So, I mean, this, you know, it's not to say that it just gives you a really good picture of like how much nutrition is actually in these vitamins. And the other thing that I saw in this image is that it says Ageless Essentials with product B delivers important ingredients such as calcium, 3 types of vitamin C, and CoQ10 that's 800% more absorbable than commonly used powder forms. And I'm going to talk about what are some of the dangerous ingredients that are in vitamins that are non-Isagenix vitamins, so that if you're coaching somebody and they say, oh no, I already take vitamins and like they're good vitamins, well, it's kind of like, I don't want, like, and it's like, you don't want to be a jerk about it, right? Because people just don't know what they don't know. So, you know, use care and love when you come back and, you know, give them a little bit of a challenge and mention, you know, some of these things that we're going to talk about and say, you know, because I care about your health, your vitamins are a huge source of, you know, if you're taking a multivitamin every day, there are certain things that sometimes you don't know is in there. And so, like, have you really, you know, just because you paid a lot of money for them doesn't mean that they don't have some of these things like that are really bad for your body. And so, you know, again, like, you don't want to scare somebody off and be like, oh, the vitamins you're taking are horrible. But at the same time, you know, I think it is worth, you know, a look. Like, have you gone through every ingredient that are in those vitamins? Because they're not, the non-Isagenix vitamins are not regulated. They're not. And so there are all kinds of things in there, fillers and other things that we're going to talk about in just a second, that can be in those vitamins that, even though it says you get X amount of milligrams of this and, you know, micro kilograms or whatever it is of that, you know, doesn't mean that there aren't some of these bad things. in them as well. So, you know, I just wanted to point out, like, this is a really impactful slide. And so when you are showing people, you know, like, well, why, God, you know, Isagenix vitamins are so expensive, right? Um, so down here it says there's a daily cost of around $4.15. And when you think about, and we're going to go over some of that, like what medical issues can come up from deficiencies, that when you think about the cost of doctor's visits and medications and, you know, what can happen as far as you, like, I mean, I've had to go to the ER, I've had iron infusions, I mean, all kinds of, you know, ulcers and all kinds of things happen as a result of being deficient in certain vitamins. And so for $4.15 a day, it's kind of like, you know, make sure that you're getting the right stuff that's going into your body. So here are some of the things that that I brought up about the vitamins. So Isagenix won a Nobel Prize for our vitamins with isagenesis, and that is humongous. I mean, honestly, like, there are a lot of ways that people will try to compare different vitamins to Isagenix, but like, okay, well, has that company won a Nobel Prize for the formulation? I mean, that's huge, right? Like, just that in and of itself, it's like, well, what can you say about that? The absorption is really key. So do people know that there are some vitamins that can take, you know, upwards of 16 hours to actually dissolve? And so the tests that they've done as far as like dissolving vitamins, you know, in vinegar, and you may have seen posts about that as well, like where Isagenix vitamins are going to absorb into your system, dissolve and absorb within 11 to 30 minutes. So typically, like, you know, it's going into your body, it's going into your blood. Within 16 hours, there's a really good chance that you could go number 2 before these things even dissolve. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when people say, like, do you know if you're like, you could be totally like pooping out your vitamins. I mean, if it's a 1 a day or if it's a crappy vitamin, you might be getting none of what it says on the label, because it literally, it hasn't even, it's still sitting there in the casing 16 hours later. So, you know, that's important too, to let people know, like, if you want to try it, test it. You know, do it for yourself at home. Pour some vinegar in a little cup, put it in there and see how long it lasts. And you know, put it to the test. So I guess we talked about, you know, FDA doesn't regulate vitamins. And so artificial colors and dyes, anything that's got, you know, FD&C blue number 5, or, you know, FD&C this or that, like, that's going to be an artificial color. And honestly, it's like, why do vitamins need to have artificial coloring? Like, why do we need to take a pill that's red? Right? Like, instead of like it just being like white because it's whatever it is in there. So that's another kind of heads up for people. It's like, well, what color are your vitamins? You know, if they're bright blue or green or something, like, they've got probably, you know, artificial coloring in them, which is not, it's toxic. It's not good for your body. Fillers and preservatives, sweeteners. I read a lot about the sugar, the amount of sugar that's in, and high fructose corn syrup that's in gummy vitamins. So of course they're so good, and people are like, oh, I love my gummies. And it's like, well, you should, because there's a whole lot of granulated sugar. And what's the most toxic, most addictive substance on the planet? Granulated sugar, right? And so, you know, and people will say, like, if you start to get sick, they'll take extra. And it's funny, you guys, when I was like 16 years old, I used to babysit for a friend on my block who had the like Flintstone vitamins for their kids. And I used to sneak those things, like, oh, they'll never miss them, because I loved how much how good they tasted, and the fruity taste. All of that stuff is just artificial flavors and sugar. You know what I mean? So it's just, it's not good. And so, let's see, mercury, lead, PCBs, which show up like in fish oils a lot. So people, you'll hear say, you know, I take fish oil. PCBs are very bad for you. You guys, talc powder. So like baby powder is an anti-caking agent that they put in vitamins that we're eating baby powder. It's just like, what in the world? And then I read something, I couldn't find it after I left this website, and I tried to go back and I couldn't find it, but I read something about the what kind of binds some gummy vitamins together, that stickiness is like some kind of swine, like swine gum or something that they made. And I was like, I can't even. I mean, I tried to go back and find it and I couldn't, but I was like, that is just too scary. So even my bariatric website has a gummy version. They have chewable versions, which made me want to go look at what's in those, right? Like I haven't yet, but I'm going to do it. Okay, so another thing to keep in mind, if you're coaching somebody that has had gastric bypass surgery, this is something for them to keep in mind. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible or that every person is going to have a problem with this, but 2 packs of 5 pills, which is the, Isagenix, like the AM and PM packs, could be difficult for somebody to take with food and water. So if you have a stomach that is has not, been stretched, someone's fairly new after having surgery, maybe it's only like a year old, 2 years, post-surgery, and their stomach is still pretty small, there's not a whole lot of food and liquid that can go into your stomach at one time, let alone so the way that I take vitamins or any pill is I put one in my mouth and I take a sip of water. So if I have to do that 5 times, I know some people don't need water, some people are better at taking pills than that. But if I took a sip, if I had food in my stomach, so that it didn't, as a precaution that it didn't make me nauseous. And if I'm taking, any other kind of medication, which, for anything else, and then I take 5 pills in the morning, with water, and I have to have a shake and ionics and a meal and a snack. And that is it's a lot of pills to take 10 pills a day of just vitamins. Okay. So, that's one of the things that I bring up to people I'm not saying that you can't, there's some people may be okay with doing that, but it's something to keep in mind. So I took my bariatric multivitamin and did this comparison that we're going to look at on the next slide. And you only take 3 of those per day, like 3 pills per day, and you have all of what you need as far as, your daily allowance of like all of these vitamins versus 10 pills a day. So that's one thing that I just have people kind of, be aware of, is that if you sign up and you say, okay, great, I'm going to take Isagenix vitamins, if you don't already know that you need to take 10 a day, I could see someone that had surgery, open up this box and be like, oh my God, this is a lot, because they might already be taking supplements for the vitamins that are already deficient, which means it's going to be 10 pills plus more that they're taking. That's a lot of pills to be putting into this little stomach that's about the size of a golf ball. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention about just obesity in general, and this doesn't have to do necessarily with bariatric surgery, but obesity and low levels of vitamin D have been linked. And so when I looked up why, I put a couple notes down here. So it says much of the vitamin D produced in the skin or ingested is distributed in fat tissue. So obese people may take in as much vitamin D from the sun, food, or supplements as people who are not obese, but their blood levels will tend to be lower because they have more fat where the vitamin D is being distributed, right? So, talking with people who are obese, that want to get started on Isagenix, are talking about the vitamins, they may still need to supplement vitamin D. Okay. Even though it says they're getting the daily amount, obviously their levels are going to show up lower. And then I found that nearly 30% of bariatric patients develop some nutritional deficiencies, such as anemia, osteoporosis, and metabolic bone diseases. These problems can usually be avoided by taking the recommended supplements of iron, calcium, B12, and folic acid, which you'll need to continue for the rest of your life. So that leads us into this table. All right, and I am going to move this thing to the top. There we go. Okay, so what I did here, and I can, post this in the group. So, we don't have to go through everything, but what's highlighted in red are major differences in what's in the Isagenix vitamins versus what's the recommended allowance for a bariatric patient. Okay, so vitamin A and vitamin D are both significantly off. I don't know what an IU is, but for vitamin D, the Isagenix vitamins have 400. I don't know if it's something unit. And bariatric recommended is 2,000. So, I mean, it's a huge amount. And then the complications that can develop from a deficiency in vitamin D is, osteoporosis. So you got fragile bones, and, you want to make sure that someone is really, and vitamin D is one of the primary vitamins that a gastric bypass patient is going to be deficient in. So they're going to prescribe a multivitamin, and they're going to prescribe a separate additional supplement of vitamin D. Always. Vitamin K. Now, again, this comparison was based on the daily essentials, but without the product B. So there some of vitamin K in the Isagenix vitamins, for example, so where you see like 0 milligrams, there might actually be some, but it's not even like 1% of the daily, recommended, vitamin. And for bariatric patients, they need 300, mcgs. So, vitamin K. So what happens if, what's the big deal if I don't have enough vitamin K? You get impaired blood clotting, right? So if somebody goes in to have surgery done or something, I mean, obviously, they're going to do blood work ahead of time to make sure that there's no issues with clotting. But, again, certain deficiencies are really common for bariatric patients. The other ones in red, the ones in yellow are ones that there's a little bit of a difference. You can see with Isagenix, like B1, which is thiamine, there's 30 milligrams. The recommended amount for bariatric patients is 50. So it's like, you're going to be a little short, but it's not, like dangerously different. B12 and iron are both closely related with low red blood cell replacement, and anything that's related to hemoglobin, your hematocrit red blood cell, is also going to impact your iron. So Isagenix has no iron in their vitamins, 0. And when I asked somebody about that, I said, why isn't there iron in our vitamins? And oh shoot, my paper it has something to do with and if you guys have this information, let me know. But the answer that I got was that it has something to do, you know what, guys, give me 1 second because I can find it. 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 5 seconds. Okay. In supplement form, iron has shown to have the pro-oxidant ability to stimulate free radicals, which creates oxidative stress. So I don't know if you've ever heard people talking about free radicals and like why that's bad, on our body, and oxidative stress. I didn't have a chance to look into that that deeply, but I also know that people's iron levels can vary a lot between men and women. Also, with women because of, menstruation, blood loss, a lot of women have issues with iron. So there are some like non-Isagenix related reasons that iron can vary a lot from person to person. Now, because of the absorption issue of iron and B12 for someone who's had gastric bypass, and especially if it's a woman who's had gastric bypass, imagine every single month they're losing blood for a week. They don't replenish red blood cells at the normal rate or at the same rate as a normal person. So that's already not being produced in the same way. And so what happens is all of those related, B12, iron, I think there's one other one, can cause anemia. Okay, so because you're not reproducing those red blood cells. And so this is something that I've experienced personally. What happens is you get really dizzy. You can have a banging headache that will not go away no matter what you do, and literally dizziness to the point that you can barely get out of bed. You can hardly walk. And your skin with anemia, like you get really pale. So if like your lips turn blue, your fingernails, like doctors can tell right away if you're anemic just by looking at you because you have like no color in your skin. So that's something that you have to be aware of, because if you look at the levels, B12, let's take that one, 300 mcgs in Isagenix, the recommended amount for bariatric patients is 1,000 to 1,300. So it only has like a third of the amount of B12. That's a major vitamin, that's missing for bariatric patients. Iron, again, like there's none in there. So if someone said, you know what, they had bariatric surgery and said, I'm just going to go ahead and use Isagenix vitamins, and didn't realize that there's no iron in them. And iron is one of the primary, you need 30 to 45 milligrams of iron a day. Plus you're losing it, if you're a woman, every month. That is dangerous when your iron gets to, a really dangerous level. And so, and then calcium was the other major one. So 775 milligrams in Isagenix vitamins, and bariatric recommendation is 1,200 to 1,500. So almost 50% difference there. That's a lot in calcium. And again, osteoporosis is the complications from being deficient in calcium. So, I just wanted to point out some of these things, because I have conversations with people literally like every week, and the conversations, it's almost like a broken record, because the symptoms are the same pretty much like across all the people that I talk to. It's like, hey, do you have, what do you do about vitamins, and do you have any trouble with your iron? And, what about red blood cells? It's all kind of like the same issues that come up. And so that's why I really wanted to dive into, our vitamins, just to really see, like, they are incredible vitamins. And obviously, stop sharing. Okay. So, and obviously, Isagenix can't be everything to everybody, right? Like you're targeting a mass market of people that are quote unquote have a normal amount of weight to lose. And so like, here's how to do a 30-day system. Here's the recommendation, 400 to 600 calories. Is that going to be enough? Is that going to be enough calories in that meal for someone that is 200, 300, 400 pounds? Like, is that enough? I mean, like, can you adjust the calories? Like, the answer is yes, like you should. That could be a total shock to someone's system, based on what they're currently eating and the calories that they're taking in. So I just, I wanted to, it's something that I've been saying for quite a while that I wanted to dig into, as far as, really knowing what is the difference between the vitamins, because it's a question that I get asked all the time. And I personally have not, I've always just kind of stuck with my bariatric vitamins, because I know where the deficiencies are. I know what I've gone through in the past, you know, I mean, I had my surgery in 2010. So in the past 8 years, what has happened within my blood work, when I look at it and it's like, oh, this is still low, this is still low. I know what those things are. And so for me, I just feel more confident in sticking with those because I know they're already boosted and I don't have to go out and get an additional supplement. Again, another reason why is that for me, having to supplement Isagenix's vitamins, and on top of the fact that there's, you know, I have to take 10 a day, it's just a lot of pills to be in there and break down for a stomach that's very, very small. Okay. So I mean, I think Isagenix vitamins are just absolutely, like, they're phenomenal. I mean, they won a Nobel Prize, right? Like, I'm in no way saying, like, you know, bad mouth or, you know, say anything bad about Isagenix vitamins. But if you're coaching someone that has had gastric bypass, you know, for sure, ask them if they've had blood work recently. You know, when is the last time that you've had blood work done? How is your iron? How's your vitamin D? How is your, you know, B12? Like, how are these, you know, 4 or 5 or 6 vitamins that are, you know, typically going to be deficient before they get started, so that you know exactly what to recommend as far as coaching. Because the other thing that you don't want to happen is for someone to come back and say, you know what, since this Isagenix, I've been exhausted. I am so tired. I feel like I can barely get out of bed and I've been having these headaches. And they start to blame symptoms on Isagenix when it really is related to vitamin deficiency. Insomnia is one of the symptoms, one of the ways that anemia shows up. So if you're anemic, it's common to not sleep. And so I'm anemic. I never sleep. And I just read this today and I'm like, well, no wonder I can't sleep. You know, it's not because of natural accelerators keeping me up at night. It's because my iron's low, which has caused anemia, which causes insomnia. So we don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to know everything about everything, but having these little nuggets in the back of your mind when people, you know, may come to you with complaints of, you know, why do I have these symptoms? It's worth asking the question back. Well, I know that you've had gastric bypass surgery. What does your blood work show? Because most likely, you know, those side effects can be, you know, directly related to vitamin deficiency and have nothing to do with shakes or ionics or anything else, right? All right, Jason, Ionics is great to take with isovitamins because of the minerals that complement are needed for our bodies. Yes, I believe Ionics also has B12. Okay, cool. So that's great too. Are you just, you know, having shakes? Or are you using vitamins and Ionics? Like, what is, and always bringing people back to this complete system. I mean, I have been kind of the mind that some nutrition is better than none. So when people come and say, well, can I just start with shakes, or can I do a shake and cleanse pack instead of, you know, the whole 30-day system? It's like, you can, I mean, officially you can, but there's a reason why these products have been formulated to complement each other, to go together. And so that's a great point that Jason brought up with the Ionics and the minerals and vitamins that are in Ionics that are going to complement, you know, what may be missing or a little low from the vitamins. The other thing is, what does your diet of food look like, right? Like, are you using Isagenix and like taking vitamins and then going out and eating McDonald's for your meal? Like, or are you getting a lot of these vitamins through your food because you're having broccoli and spinach and, you know, chicken and mangoes and like all of those things that we saw on the first slide as far as like where those vitamins come from. So really walking through, like, tell me, like, it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt, but tell me literally, when you wake up in the morning, like, what are you having for breakfast? What are your snacks? What is your regular meal? Are you having 2 shakes? Do you take Ionics every day? Or is it once a week? These things matter. Because like I said, if people are coming to you with certain symptoms and saying like, here's how I'm feeling since I've started this Isagenix, you know, it's good to be armed with this knowledge so that you can go back and say, well, let's look at all of the possibilities before we decide that it's the shakes that's giving you a headache, right? Like, I mean, headache is related to anemia. Like what is your iron level? Like, do you know? Like, I don't know. I haven't had blood work done. Well, you should go get some blood work done, especially if you've had surgery. And so you noticed on that note on the last slide that we looked at about these deficiencies don't just resolve themselves. If someone has had gastric bypass, you will have to supplement those things for the rest of your life. If not, like if you don't get enough protein, your hair falls out. I've seen it happen. I've been in support groups that literally people come, David, you haven't had surgery. I know it. Yeah, that's no excuse. So, so like there are serious, you know, serious things that can happen. And so I just really, you know, thought that this would be a great topic just to bring to light that 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it would be normal that if I said, you know, do you know someone who's had gastric bypass? You might say, no, I've heard of that surgery, but I don't know anybody. Today, I mean, I'm having so many conversations. It's like my sister, my cousin, my friend's friend, my mom, my mom, my aunt. I mean, like there are people galore. It's like almost mainstream of people having surgery now. So, and I really hope, I mean, so far, you know, Isagenix Corporate, I mean, they did respond, you know, with an article about using Isagenix if you've had gastric bypass, which is awesome. You know, I reached out and said, does any of this information exist? The answer was no. And they responded back and said, we agree, there should be something out there. It's a little vague. At the end, it's, you know, when it comes to, I think, compliance wise, you know, like if all else fails, like do what your doctor says to do so that, you know, there's no lawsuit involved there. But it's great. It's still a lot of really good information in there for people who have had surgery. So I hope and pray and anticipate that because this is so common and because Isagenix is a solution for people who have had surgery that are gaining weight back or that haven't lost enough weight. I mean, I'm living proof. There's, you know, a lot of people that are in LiveFULLy that have had surgery. A lot of people just within Isagenix period that are, you know, have had surgery and are now turning to Isagenix for their nutrition. I really think that we will start to see more information like this, and you know that like we're kind of addressing that there are some differences in the way that you use Isagenix. So you can absolutely use it; it's absolutely going to work, but you're probably going to need to make some modifications. And so knowing what some of those things are that you can do is going to be helpful for that person that comes to you and you haven't had surgery yourself and they say, what do I do? I mean, I got this guide in my system in a value pack or 30-day, like, do I follow it exactly? And the answer is like, probably not. You know, I'm going to give you some ideas and I'm going to ask you some questions so that we can make sure, you know, that you're getting everything that you need for a healthy, successful experience with Isagenix. So, and as always, I mean, I'm always here. I'm willing to talk to anybody. I don't care if they're on my team, not on my team. I don't care if they're in another country. Like, it doesn't matter. Because like I said, a lot of the conversations, before they even finish their sentence, you know, I'm nodding my head like, yep, me too. It's like the same story. So don't hesitate to, you know, connect anybody with me that you're talking to or that you come in contact with. And I think that it's a huge win to know, I mean, they're going to do something, right? Like if surgery is not the end all be all, it never is. Every single time people gain the weight back, if they're not getting the right nutrition after they have surgery. You know, like I just talked to a lady last night who gained 80 pounds after gastric bypass. Like, can you imagine? I mean, I gained almost 50. It's like the panic that sets in when you think that that's the answer and it's not. And it's like, what am I going to do now? To know that you're like, don't, like, chances are they're not going to have someone coaching them doing Weight Watchers or doing Adkins or doing some other thing that they choose that actually knows what's going to affect their health, like in these major ways, right? Like to have someone coaching them that knows, hey, I know anemia is really common, you know, with gastric bypass patients. Like, let's talk about your iron levels. Let's talk about your B12. What are you doing? Are you taking bariatric vitamins, or are you taking vitamins at all? Did you give up on that? You know, like for you to know that, someone's going to be like, oh my God, they know their SHIT. You know what I mean? Like they know what they're talking about. And I just think, you know, if I just think it goes a long way, you know, to have that knowledge for people to know that, like, yeah, things are a little different for me. You know, you're really taking care of that for them on their behalf. So that's all I have on this tonight. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
Yeah, Chris, I do. I love that information because what I'm down on, I'm not up on. And what I've learned is that we're all nutrient deficient. And if I were to have surgery, I'm only going to be more susceptible to being nutrient deficient. And if my knowledge is deficient, I'm going to be super deficient. Now, I didn't have surgery, but yet I know I'm nutrient deficient on D, and I would believe many others because I have symptoms of skin, and I know that that's a D, vitamin D deficiency.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're telling me about D alone, just that one, is I need it even though I'm taking Isagenix vitamins. I need to supplement my diet with more on areas similar because my body, like you were stating, uses vitamin D differently because of the fat. So just that one little piece helps me. And this whole process, so I have a cousin who is or may not be open to Isagenix, but if I didn't have this information or this channel, this facilitating ability with you, how could I answer any of these questions? I feel so much more equipped today because of you and this than ever before, and it's not going away. There's more and more people that I know that have had surgery that are gaining weight and giving up. That's the story. People are giving up because they don't have any alternative. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. So I look forward to talking about this even more.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, that was great. The gentleman there, I really appreciate his comment there. He's absolutely right, I believe. And I find it, someone said it, the way the vitamins are formulated, well, not just how they are made and what they're made from is something that's also very important. Is it made from a natural food source?
Right.
You know, I believe Isagenix vitamins they are from a natural food source. And I think they use a fermentation process, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that is exactly, but it is, anyway, it's so that our bodies can absorb it. So, but I've also never experienced any kind of discomfort from taking the Isagenix vitamins. And I've never heard of anybody ever having any kind of stomach issues as a result of taking the vitamins from Isagenix.
Mm-hmm.
So that I always find that to be a very encouraging sign. I mean, our bodies will basically tell us when something is working or something is not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of times if we're paying attention. So that's kind of how I gauge the quality of the product. A lot of times it's just how's my body responding to it. So, but the vitamins, I heard something a couple of years ago it was about in regard to ionics is that the ionics is important because it has one of the things it has is the mineral content, which is deficient in our fruits and vegetables. And so, but our vitamins are the other half of this equation. You know, we need vitamins and minerals. And the vitamins don't work really well if they don't have if your body is deficient in minerals. And then your minerals also are only so effective without the vitamins. So they're really meant to be paired together. And so I believe the Isagenix official recommendation is actually do ionics with the vitamins and for just the maximum benefit. And that's what I've been doing for a couple of years now. So ever since then.
Yeah. It's that delivery system, right? Like that we hear about when we talk about the vitamins of the minerals, or maybe I have it backwards. One of them can't be absorbed unless they're delivered in the right way from, like the vitamins can't be absorbed unless the minerals.
I know there's an article on it. I know there's an article. Probably have to look it up in isagenixhealth.com.
And you know who else? I think they do talk about Jim Rhodes on one of his like original CDs that I listened to about like all the different products. I mean, oh my God. If you've never heard Jim Rhodes talk, I mean, like he's got more knowledge about these products than anybody I've ever heard, especially the vitamins. So, and I think Casey actually had him on one of the calls, and afterwards we were like, we need to have him back on a call and just talk about vitamins, like nothing else, because there was so much good info about the vitamins. And again, that's great, like for a normal person's stomach. So that's the only disclaimer that it's like I'm putting out there as just like FYI, take all of that info about a value pack and how great the vitamins are, that if you're talking to someone who's had, bariatric surgery, there is, the Pace Setter pack. I love it because it's a 30-day system. It has weight thins. It has e-shots. It has chocolates in it. So it's got like, some of those extras that are missing in a 30-day basic system. It's got the blender, but it does not have the vitamins and the isogenesis. So if someone says, now I'm sticking, my doctor's got me on the bariatric vitamins, I already take supplements, they know exactly where they're at to keep all of their, blood work, their vitamins to where it needs to be. My recommendation is leave it alone. It's figured out the way it's supposed to be from their doctor based on these new rules of what vitamins they're going to end up being deficient in that are already been boosted through these, specially formulated bariatric vitamins. So otherwise they're going to have to supplement in a handful of different areas in addition to the 10 pills that they're taking a day through the AM and PM pack. Does that make sense? So I'm just saying, keep that in mind. That's something that you deserve to help someone do if you sign them up with vitamins, with Isagenix vitamins. Don't leave them hanging and not knowing that that they still need to supplement in these different areas, because I just think as a coach, that's just really doing somebody a disservice. Like you want to make sure you're aware of what they need to do. And if you're not, do a 3-way call with me. Just say, you know what? I think I kind of know, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to get Chris on the phone and make sure that you're all set, that you're getting the vitamins that you need so that they have the best results with the products. Because like I said, you don't want them to be complaining about symptoms that they think are attributed to something that it's not. Anybody else? Mandy, Adam? No? Okay. Cool. Well, I hope this was helpful and beneficial. And if you run into anybody else, or you have anyone in your team, even if you want to just do a double check and, say, hey, like, what are you doing as far as your vitamins are concerned? If they're ordering vitamins, just make sure that they're in good shape. And because like I said, a lot of these, like I didn't know I was anemic until I got someplace and felt so nauseous because I had the worst headache ever. And I literally thought I could not walk by myself. I had to have somebody like I was in Dallas. I was in a hotel, like at an event. And I was like, I can't, my vision was hazy. Like I was dizzy. I was like, what the heck? And I almost went to the emergency room in Dallas. I was able to make it back. And then went into the doctor, and sure enough, they were like, your iron is like at a dangerously low level. And I had to get an infusion because you can't absorb iron through a pill form the way that you need to, because you're bypassing the organ that absorbs it. So it's like, like that, I didn't find out until it was, not too late, but obviously, like if you're not having regular blood work done, you don't know. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. And I guess we'll see you all next Monday. All right.
Yeah. Thanks for the info. Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.